Hey, how's it going, captains? Admiral Tori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about fighting for your own freedom when it comes to playing games, because my last video was absolutely devastating, demoralizing after playing one game that I thought it was very upsetting. I was upset after that game. It didn't really stop me from doing the video, but I continued to do the video. So the last video I uploaded was me playing 3 games, and the second game was the game that has really caught my attention, and it is going down in history as one of the worst experience I have ever had on World of Warships. So if you watched the video, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched the video, then I will just fill you in on the backgrounds of what happened. Basically, I was playing the tier 7 German battleship Scharnhorst, and I got into a match where there was me and enemy Scharnhorst, and everyone else was playing destroyers and cruisers. If you play battleships and you get into this type of matchmaking where it's dominated by cruisers and destroyers, you gotta be cautious if you have any experience with battleships, because if you play too aggressive with your battleship and push into a location, most likely you're going to be focus fired by cruisers, and possibly at worst you will take torpedoes, and that will get you killed in the beginning of the game. When I make battleship videos, I always talk about positioning, because positioning is very important when it comes to battleship. It is probably the #1 thing when it comes to playing battleships. Some would say that doing damage is the #1 thing with the battleship. That is not true. It's all about positioning, because it's so easy to take out a battleship if a battleship gets into a poor position, like running aground, entering a zone where it's swarmed by torpedoes. It's very important as a battleship player to understand your situation, understand what you're dealing with, and that's why I did in that particular game. I analyzed the situation and I made the decision to play a certain way. Now, sometimes people make the mistakes that they play too aggressive, which get them killed in the early game, and they play too passive when they don't take any damage, and they sit at the back of the map while your entire team is just suffering from taking damage. I always try to find a way to balance it, and in that particular game, I thought I did a great job, because I normally measure my passive and aggressive playstyle by how often do I use my repair party. If I'm able to use up 4 of my repair parties in the entire game, which I did, that means I pretty much utilized my battleship correctly, because #1, if I die too early in the game, that means I didn't use my repair party, and #2, if I'm too passive by taking no damage, that means I don't use my repair party. So I always measure my performance by using the repair party, which means that if I'm staying alive long enough and using up my HP, then I'm doing it correctly. At the same time, trying to do some damage. But then again, like I said, if I'm the only battleship in the game on my team, chances are the enemy team wants to sink me. So I had to keep that in mind, with the thought that I'm also a battleship player, which means that I'm not able to play like a destroyer or a cruiser. And my team just blasted me. They blasted me as if I'm incapable of playing. They basically insulted me, they called me a joke, and I was very upset after that game. And I didn't stop doing the video because it wasn't the purpose of me. It didn't give me a good reason to let people who just destroyed me to stop the video, because what I really enjoyed doing was making the video. That was the first thing that comes to my mind when I was starting to do that video, because I wanted to share the experience. And it was such a coincidence that I have just witnessed one of the worst moments in my life in terms of World of Warships. So I thought maybe it's a good idea to at least do a video and reflect on what happened. Nowadays, I think that any game that you play, especially a game that has a competitive scene like ranking League of Legends, World of Warships, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you start to lose a lot on your ability to do whatever you want. Now, I strongly believe that every player have their own rights to play the game. You don't let anyone judge you or at least tell you what to do. And that is something that I have a hard time to do, because I'm a very obedient person. That's the way I am. I grown up to be obedient to a lot of people out there. So when people tell me to do something, like in that game, they told me to push B, which I did. I follow every single command that they asked me to do. Push B, push A. And at the same time, I was applying what I know about Battleship, taking damage and disengaging when I need to disengage, because taking too much damage will get me killed. But it's one of those moments. It is one of those moments where people will judge you even though you're innocent. I have a certain amount of power what I can do, and this has been a problem with my aircraft carrier experience, because people think that aircraft carriers are some sort of god in the game that can take on anything, but I only have a certain amount of experience as a player and what I can do with aircraft carriers, because aircraft carriers has been nerfed a lot, and people don't realize that because not many people play aircraft carriers, so they get the wrong interpretation that they think that the aircraft carrier will always be the best player in the game, and they expect you to be at the top of the leaderboard. But sometimes I would do bad, and sometimes, in this case, there's things I cannot do or I don't have the power to control, because people think that I can do anything I want. And in this case, they thought that I was like agile and well concealed like a destroyer to go into the capture zone and, indestructible. No, the Scharnhorst has terrible torpedo protection, and it's a big ship for the cruisers to shoot at. So when I was getting shot at by the Belfast, and I lost like at least a third of my health for the first couple minutes, I decided to disengage, and that is when my team starts to call me out for being a coward, a camper, whatever the case is. So I was thinking, it's like, what is the thing that's really stopping me? And that is really people oppressing my freedom to play, because sometimes you got to listen to your team, okay? Sometimes your team will always be right. I've been in many games where people who sit in the capture zone and our team, or at least my team, tells him to stay in the capture zone and we win the game because he was about to finish capping the flag, but then he gets greedy and chases after a ship to get the kill, and then we lose the game because we lost in points since he didn't capture the flag. I'm sure that everyone who plays World of Warship gets those moments, or any other game where people just disobey your orders, and it's like the most common sense order. But at the same time, games like the one I had, the Scharnhorst, people are telling me to do something, and sometimes I feel like what I'm doing is more right than what they say. And the problem with that game, the reason why it really stuck out to me, was because half my team blamed me. I was the reason to why we lost the game. It was against all odds. It was 3-1. I was on the losing side on my argument, and I didn't even bother to argue because I know for a fact that 3 people were just going to out-argue me compared to myself trying to defend myself. And it's really hard, especially today in society, to point out something, because most cases, from what I've seen from my experience, that nobody cares about what you say, because they will always think that they're right compared to what you say. They always oppose what you say, and it's a way, I don't know why, but people like to push their problems and blame on somebody else. And in this case, when one of my, I'm pretty sure someone who died in that game, at least one player who blamed me, probably blame their death because of me, even though I have nothing to do with it. They probably think that I should have took the damage and they would have been alive, even though technically in that game I personally thought I was taking a lot of damage and I had to disengage. So it was rough. It was rough because I felt innocent and these guys were just blaming me, and I might be wrong. It's very subjective because sometimes people think they're right, but at the end of the day they might be wrong because they could be wrong. It's really hard to judge who's right and wrong. That really leads up to whoever judges you. So after that game, whether I'm right or wrong, that doesn't really matter in that game. What really matters is making your own decision. And sometimes I just don't know how to exercise my own rights because I feel like that, like I said, I thought I was making all the right decisions, and I hope I am, but it turns out I don't know if it's true, but since 3 people are against me, it might be wrong. So then I play a couple ranked games later, a couple days later, and I had the same situation, but not as bad as the Scharnhorst game. In this game, there was one destroyer player, and he was yelling at me for not being aggressive enough. I was like at the middle of the fleet, and he told me to push. So I decided to speed up and become the front line. This is something that you don't do at the higher tier battleship, but I still did it because I was very obedient. I was listening to commands, and I was worried. After that experience, I was worried that this guy will yell at me for being useless, and I don't want to be yelled at for being useless. So I decided to listen to what he say, and even though it went against what my my thinking of playing a battleship, my ideal situation, against my against my own advice, if I put it that way, not to be the front lines at all times, I decided to take the front lines without anyone being in front of me. And as a result, I was torpedoed to death, I was focused by cruisers, and eventually I died pretty fast. And after that, even though the guy called me a dumbass or idiot for playing too passive or not being aggressive enough, even though I was staying with my fleet, I pushed forward and I got called an idiot by him. So I snapped. I type in the chat, it's like, which one is it? If I sit right here, I get called an idiot. If I push forward, as you said to me to do, you commanded me to push forward, I still get called an idiot. No matter what I do, it's beyond my control, and I still get called out. And I just said in the chat, and somehow the other battleship player, which was playing Nagato, I was playing Nagato, and the other battleship player was also playing Nagato. He's being picked on by this guy also for being too slow. He stood up for me. He said that play rank the way you want to play your ship, because nobody has the right or the power to control your ship. It is your own decision. And seeing like somebody influence me to do something is whether you choose to do so or not. And I digest that information, and I start to realize that I have all the right sanity, I have all the power, I have all the control to do whatever I want with my ship, within good reasons. And that's pretty important, because like I said, with that example when the guy was capturing flag and my team tells him to stay and cap the flag to win the game, but then he gets greedy and he does whatever he wants and he just went for the kill and we lose the game because he didn't capture the flag. It has to be within good reasons. And I thought in my Scharnhorst game that I was doing the right thing, because if I went in too early, I'm pretty sure I would have got torpedoed by one of the two sims or get focus fired to death by the Belfast. It's an experience that I've seen a lot of my times on World of Warships, so I was making the right decision to disengage, even though 3 people think that I'm doing it all wrong. So the point is, exercise your right. Don't let anybody oppress what you do. And it took me a while. It really did take me a while to overcome this upsetting moment. And I know for a fact that there's people out there who are pretty good at this stuff. I have friends who just, something happens to them and they just ignore it like nothing happened. While I'm, as a person, if I was in their position, it would stick to me for a while. And that is something that I cannot, it's not easy to overcome. You can say it, but it's not easy to act on it, because the human mind, I hate the human mind. It's so complicated. And for me, it sticks to me. It just sticks in my head until I find a way to overcome it. And in this case, making a video, converting that negativity, that negative experience, and trying to change it up and find a solution to it and express how I feel about it. And if I can, change it, if I could fix it by talking about it and taking a moment to think, how would I respond to that moment? And this is the video. How would I respond to it? And that guy truly inspired me. And I wish to disseminate his point. Exercise your rights. Even though nowadays, people like to be douchebags. There are plenty of assholes on the internet. And this was not a problem back in the day for me, because I rarely play rank by myself. I never had the incentive to play rank in World of Warship until recently, because I wanted to get the flint, because I wanted the flint to set things on fire. If I don't have the flint, then how am I supposed to get a fire started in World of Warship or in Minecraft? Because you need flint and steel to start a fire, right? Well, that was a terrible reference to Minecraft, but I wanted USS Flint. That was the only reason why I was playing rank, and it requires you to play rank for 3 seasons and try to get rank 1. And the reason why I didn't play rank before is because I knew for a fact that if I play rank, I'm gonna be meeting up with these assholes at some point. And I don't know what are the odds of 3 people bagging on me. It was really hard. I don't know what to say. So the point is that really overcome these obstacles and exercise your freedom. Have freedom in the way you play, because you have all the control. you have the power to control your ship. You have the power to play the way you want to play. And I've been through this moment so many times. People like to criticize me. People like to make fun of me. But this one has really hit me hard, and I was just destroyed, absolutely down and devastated. Now, of course, after playing that game, after doing the video, I took a moment to relax and play some music, watch some YouTube videos, add some encouraging or moments to my life, and try to cheer my mood up. I think it's a great way to add more value to this video is to share some music that I listen to. Maybe, it's a great way to share things, and some music that really cheers me up. So I think that if you take a moment to think of what has happened, if you ever get in these moments and you're that type of person like me who can't really get over with, just take a moment and think about it. Don't let it sink into you. That is the point here. So aside from that, I'm gonna put some down in the description below. I'm gonna put some links to videos that I listen to. They're like 1 hour playlists where I normally play these video while I play rank. So I listen to music while I play rank because this what really keeps me moving. But when I was doing my rank video, I didn't have these music playing, so it was kind of hard for me to deal with it because there was nothing that really soothes me in this such terrible position that I was in. My mood was watching the video. When I watched the video after like the second half of the video, I can tell that I was very depressed and devastated at what happened. But after that game, I took a moment, and from that guy encouragement and watching some videos and trying to brighten up my mood, I have really had the courage to do a video and talk about it, and to finish off my point here, trying to finish off my guilt of playing that game. I strongly believe that I did nothing wrong in that game. And that's how I feel. That's my freedom. My freedom is that the choices that I made was right, and it's within good reason. Now, if I was screwing around, if I was sitting in the back map because I want to exercise my freedom to do whatever I want, then I can easily be called an idiot. I truly believe when people do these type of things and they don't think about it and they jeopardize the team's, the overall group work, then it is reasonable to call someone an idiot, or at least not doing the right thing. But in my case, I don't know. I just don't know if I did it right. But that's not the point of the video. It's not really the point of to dwell my depression or my upsetting mood on that particular video. The video is just really overcoming these obstacles. So hopefully I post something at the end of the video that might cheer people up, because I find music and art to be the best way to change the human mind. I mean, the human mind is, I don't know why. Why is the human mind so complicated? Why does it have to be so complicated? There's so many ways to approach things. So aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I can brighten some people's mood who get in the same situation as me. And I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.
Here I am, compose me, I'm your music, your inspiration, your